Hi, my name is Yvonne, and in today's video, I'll be sharing with you a version of the talk that I'll be giving live in Rotterdam this weekend. I'm really excited about it, and frankly, also a little nervous. Okay, maybe a lot nervous. So I thought I'd give myself a space to prepare, and I could do that just me in front of a mirror or something, but I just also thought it would be fun to share it with you. So thanks in advance for watching. And I really love this story. And even though it's deeply personal, I also profoundly believe that that is what makes it universal. So I hope it speaks to you. And thanks for watching. I'll dive right in. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. Rumi said that. And I really like that idea. I like the idea of there being a field beyond right and wrong. And in fact, just for the purpose of this conversation, let's just pretend that we're there right now. Let's pretend that we're in this field out beyond right and wrong. And in this space, we no longer need to try and get it right in order to avoid getting it wrong. A place, in fact, where you can't get it wrong at all. Now, in that space, what would you do? Seriously, think about that for a moment. What would you do if you no longer needed to try and get it right? And you had no desire to avoid getting it wrong because you realized you can't get it wrong at all. If every choice you made was the right one, what would you choose? Me? When everything's all right? Well, first of all, I'd feel liberated because I wouldn't need to try so hard and be somewhere I'm not, to be someone I'm not. I wouldn't have to try and get it right to avoid getting it wrong, and I can free myself to make any choice that I want to make and then back myself in those choices no matter what. No right, no wrong, just the choice in the moment. And I've really thought about this, and my choice, I would just tell the truth. Why tell the truth? Because unless I'm telling the truth, I'm telling myself I've got something to hide. When I hide, I'm relegating parts of myself into the shadows. And when part of me lives in the shadows, it cannot see the light. I'm telling myself, oh, this can't be seen. And then I can't be seen. And I believe and perpetuate a story of shame. Shame for making certain choices, shame for making mistakes, shame for being freaking human, shame for being who I am. And by telling myself that part of me can't be seen, I can't be seen, I feel invisible and lonely. Lonely, not necessarily when I'm alone, lonely particularly when I'm around others. By telling and believing that story of shame, I treat myself as other than the others. I separate myself from the world and I separate from myself. And that is the greatest pain. That I'm no longer willing to do. That price is too effing high. And so I'm telling the truth. I'll keep telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. For that truth is going to set me free. So I'll be telling the truth. But where to start? You know, the inner perfectionist in me would like to start the way you're supposed to start, at the beginning. How I was this bright, eager young girl who loved to learn, got good grades, and was loved by all. The girl in the back of the class who would just reach her arm to the sky to let the teacher know that she had the right answer. When the truth is that even as early as like 6 years old, I was already operating under coping skills and survived on the unholy trinity of please, perform, perfect. In another version of the story, I would tell you about how I had a stroke at 4/24/2004 when I was 24 years old. And to even out the symmetry, I had not one but two strokes. Clearly, the universe was having a lot of fun with me on that one. It was obvious to me that the universe was trying to get my attention, and boy, that worked. After that, I had less than 10% of my energy to spend every day. living with so little energy that even without job or kids, I would still need a nap to get me through the day. I had days where I would cry thinking about taking a shower because I realized I needed to put a stool in there because I couldn't stand long enough to wash my hair. It's a story where I believed that my physical limitations were real, when the truth is I created that stroke through all that tension and stress that I put myself under with the please, perform, perfect. I believed that my body slammed the brakes every time I tried to do something and live again. But the truth is, my unconscious beliefs braked for me because it wasn't safe for me to thrive. But instead of telling you those stories and telling it in the right order and start at the beginning, I'll still start my story at the end. And since my life has recently turned upside down, it feels like a good fit. So, starting at the end, well, in as early as February, a few short months ago, I might have sat here and told you about how I healed my body after having a stroke, how I overcame my chronic fatigue and stepped into working again at 42, turning that number around when I had the stroke at 24. How I recently moved into a glorious new home with my husband, a man who stood by my side through it all, my partner of 28 years. And that picture looked so right and looked like I had it all. Instead, this seemingly rock-steady marriage dissolved in a matter of weeks. Days, actually. 3 days, to be precise. On day 1, February 18, I was in our brand new home, the one we'd been planning for and working toward for about 18 months. And I was painting the stairs and reveling in the fact that I could do that my own now. And suddenly, as I was painting, there was this flash before my eyes, an image. It was a very clear, powerful image. And it lasted only seconds, but it really stuck with me and I felt an instant rush of anxiety. Now, I've done enough inner work at this point to know that when anxiety comes knocking, I need to take a closer look to see what the fear is about. And I allowed that picture to expand, and the flash was about me being with another woman. I allowed that awareness to take me over, and it filled me with a power and a vitality unlike anything I've ever known. It was so powerful that I would promise myself that I would explore that and find out what it means because I owed it to myself. I then quickly went into a kind of bargaining/denial phase where I told myself that this could exist within my marriage. But on day 2, that illusion began to dissolve, and I went numb with guilt and shame and fear. I asked the help of a friend to help me release all this using the Sedona method in which we were both practiced, to support me in coming out to my husband. On day 3, I came out to my husband and told him that this would end our marriage. I told him that I wanted to explore being with a woman, and in doing so that I would likely at some point fall in love and leave him. And he gave me the most beautiful response. He told me that he thought I was brave for sharing, and that he loved me, and that we could work it out and make it an open marriage. That was just more than I could have ever asked for, and we lived with that beautiful idea for a few glorious days when that illusion came crashing down as well. We realized that, in fact, this would end our marriage. And we proceeded to tell family and friends, where I outed myself as gay. And I remember shortly after my husband being on the phone with one of his sisters, and he was telling me right after he got off the phone that, oh, this gay thing is God sent. And this stopped me dead in my tracks and sent shivers down my spine. It was a perfect story to tell. Oh God, it was too perfect. It meant that nobody was to blame. It meant I had a clear cut out and that nothing could save the marriage. It was too perfect. And that's when I began to dive deeper, and I just asked the universe to, like, please, for the love of God, help me understand what's going on here. Because I didn't get it, but I could just feel something was off. And in the days that followed, more and more awareness came, and I realized that I wasn't gay at all. I just needed to believe I was to make it safe for me to consider leaving my marriage. I had made our marriage the safe foundation on which I'd built my entire life. We got together when I was just 15. It was my first ever boyfriend, and it happened at the same time as my parents' divorce. My father had left my mom for another woman, and I had made an unconscious commitment that said something along the lines of, that's not going to be me. We're going to stay together no matter what and show everyone that marriage can work. It turns out that I was married to that idea more than I was the man. And I couldn't let myself even consider for a moment that there were things that weren't right about the marriage. I needed it to be perfect, so I made it all fit. And I remember the moments where I'd feel so pleased when my sister-in-law would say, like, oh, you fit together so perfectly. And I couldn't really see until recently that that's what the picture looked like, but it wasn't true. It looked right, but it was all wrong. We only fit because I made myself fit. I cut off parts of myself in order to have that perfect fit that I wanted, that I believed that I needed, as if my very safety depended on it. So for 28 years, we looked like the perfect couple. And in fact, I suspect that had we polled everyone in my circle of family and friends at the start of this year and asked them to make a list of the steadiest relationships they knew, ours would be top of that list. And they could have been polled at the start of this year and it would still come out that way. So apparently my system decided coming out as gay would be preferable to coming clean to everyone and face the shame of admitting that the story wasn't real. Now, I want to make this clear. I didn't consciously decide on this gay narrative. Hell, I didn't even know that my perfect picture wasn't real. And it was only after having already concluded that the marriage wouldn't make it that I could allow even myself to know the truth. The truth that an open marriage wouldn't work. The truth that I wasn't gay, though questioning or open sexually. The truth was that even though there was plenty of love and support, I still needed to walk away. I needed to walk away because I now finally realized the truth of the relationship. The truth is, the picture looked right, but some things were wrong from the start. I fled into the relationship after my parents' divorce. Truth is, I've been in love with his love more than I was the man. And my husband and I kept talking about each new insight and revelation in the days and weeks that followed. And at some moments, it seemed like every day I received more awareness, more insight, like, oh God, this is what I've been suppressing. Oh God, this is what I've been denying. This is what is true. And since I had already blown up my life, I felt that all I had was the truth. So I kept sharing it all, minutes, sometimes seconds after having a realization, even when each new layer felt more devastating than the last. So we had just told my family that I was gay and that this made it right to end our marriage without any therapy or counseling. And now we needed to make the same rounds, and this time sharing that the marriage was still ending and still final without counseling, and that I wasn't gay, but it still was ending. And the truth is, I had made myself to fit the relationship. Truth is, I had been denying parts of myself. Truth is, I couldn't be myself in that space. Truth is, I didn't feel seen because it hasn't felt safe to show all of me. Truth is, I'm anxiously attached in a codependent relationship. Truth is that in some ways he felt like my dad more than my husband. Truth is, I couldn't have sex anymore, knowing what I know. Truth is, I've been lacking intimacy from the start, and I felt desperately lonely in the relationship since day one. Now, none of this is on my husband, but it's just not on me either. And the truth is, I couldn't know all of this and stay a second longer because the price was too high. It cost me my relationship with myself. So the truth is, I needed to walk away from it all. The man, the house, the dogs, risking rejection by family and friends in order to no longer reject myself. The truth is that for many years, the picture looked right, but there were many things wrong below the surface. The truth is, he wasn't my savior, nor my jailer, but instead I had unconsciously caged, bound, imprisoned, and lost myself in the process. And the truth is that I'm more myself now, and now to the outside, the picture looks like I'm having a midlife crisis. The picture looks like I've completely lost the plot, when the truth is I found myself more fully than I ever had. And it looks like my life is falling apart and it's in pieces. But the truth is, I had been giving pieces of myself to another, and in calling them home, I feel whole for the first time in my life. And the weirdest thing is that when I started speaking this story out loud and sharing this with anyone, I felt such shame. And yet as I wrote the story and bled out the truth along with my tears, I finally realized that this is not a story of shame. This is not a story of my mistakes. This is not a story about everything that went wrong with my life. This is a story of how I made things right with myself. The truth is that it was all right all along. It was all right. It was all right. Meaning nothing really went wrong here because there's no such thing. Nothing about my experience is ever wrong. It's all right. The truth is, I did the best I could in all those versions of myself. The truth is that for many years, I believed I was in the right place at the right time with the right man. And that was true in the moment, as true as I could allow. The truth is, there's nothing wrong with that picture and that story, even though it now turns out that it wasn't right for me. Now that I know it wasn't right, I can make a choice of what is right, and I get to choose. And whatever I choose is all right. It's all right to leave my marriage when I cannot live my true self in it. It's all right to leave my home and my country and go live a life of adventure. It's all right to experiment and explore what this new life looks like and how I want it to be for myself. It's all right to sleep with a man 13 years younger because it felt good in the moment. And it's all right to break all the rules I'd previously made up and make new ones. And it's all right to change my mind about that daily, which I do. It's all right. I remember a night, so about 2 weeks ago, I think, and I was alone in the apartment, and I had crawled into a bed, stripped of clothes, and I'm lying there naked, and I proceed to touch myself, and not in a sexual way, but in a loving, intimate way, lovingly caressing my body, telling myself over and over and over again, it's all right, it's all right, it's all right, it's all right, it's all right. 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 And I realized then, as I realize it again today, this is not a story of my mistakes. This is not a story of all the list with a list of things that went wrong. Nothing about my experience is wrong, not in any moment of my journey. It's all right. I was right to be in the relationship, and I'm right to leave it. I was right to have patterns to survive that kept me sick, and right to now leave that old identity behind. This is not a story of all the things that went wrong. This is a story of how I made things right with myself. And I made things right by deciding it was all right. And since it's all right, I actually find myself in that field that Rumi talks about, that field beyond right and wrong. And I get to choose what feels right to me. And in that field, I am free. And now that I'm free, I can truly let you see me, and I can fully see you too. Now we can truly meet in our imperfection, in the realness of our truths, a truth that gets to change every moment. And it may seem messy and chaotic, but it beats clinging to previously decided upon truth that may or may not be true anymore. Because perfection means chasing something that isn't real, trying to uphold a lie, meeting not each other but the faces that we put on, shoving our messy parts in the shadows, reaffirming that they cannot be the light, abandoning ourselves, feeling more and more and more alone, even and especially in a crowd. And that is not all right with me anymore. I choose different. It's not all right with me anymore to leave myself in order to fit with another. Not all right to make myself smaller to fit an image. It's not all right to dismiss my dreams and call it perfectionism, judging myself for wanting more from my life, for wanting too much. No. It's right for me to choose whatever feels right to me in any and every moment. And it's all right to let that change daily. It's all right to be everything I want to be and step into everything I dream of. So I really want to leave behind the masks I wore and wear my true face to the world. I want to stop hiding in my smallness, hiding in limitation, hiding even behind my hair. I long to be seen, long to truly connect. I long to meet in that field beyond right and wrong. Because there is no connection in perfection because perfect doesn't exist. Perfect is a mask that hides who we really are, hides parts of ourselves in the shadows, making us feel lonely even when we're looking each other in the eye. There's only connection in imperfection, meaning our flaws and mistakes are a prerequisite for connection. And I want you to really hear that and take that in. Our flaws and mistakes are a necessary ingredient for connection. So let's drop the masks. Let's show our mistakes. Let's tell the truth of who we are. Let's truly connect. Let's meet in that field. Because in that field, we can own all parts of ourselves, come out of the shadows, end suppression, repression, and depression, and trade it for our truest self-expression. Own our truth that sets us free. Because the more I free myself of these rules of what's right and what might be wrong, the more I follow what feels right to me. And the more I'm leaving behind the rules, the more I leave behind what's familiar and become familiar with me and what it feels like to be truly free. I've now left my husband, my home, my city, and even my country. I'm currently living in Germany, and at the end of the month, I'll be flying to Tallinn, Estonia, to embrace a nomadic life of adventure. And I actually bought a one-way ticket, and I have no idea where I'll go next. So I'm cutting off ties, not to friends and family, but to the familiar. I cut it off along with my hair. And I may be out on my own now, but I don't feel alone much anymore. And I'll leave you with one last truth. It's kind of scary to be this free, but I'm moving forward, stepping into it, vulnerable, shaking and afraid. I kind of feel like Bambi on ice some days. But you know what? I'll learn how to skate because I'm here and I'm committed to me and my freedom. And it's funny because when I was sick, I often felt like my world was reduced to the size of my living room. And then when I began to write and blog and find communities online, it felt like the entire world had become my playground. And I would often ask people in the chat, like, hey, share in the chat where you're from, because I love connecting with people from all over the world. And now I feel like the actual world is my playground. And in fact, just weeks ago, I've been invited to be an ambassador for My Sacred Places. And that's a new organization that brings people together from all over the world to explore sacred places in nature. An organization that works to include those who cannot travel, the elderly and the chronically ill, and anyone who may, for whatever reason, want to travel and connect to other people and other cultures, but can't in the moment. And I hate to use this horrible, horrible word, but it's perfect. I am the perfect person to be the ambassador for this organization. When I learned of My Sacred Places, I instantly loved the idea. I love the idea to travel to them because I've never really been one to travel for the sake of the pretty pictures. I want to go and connect to other people, connect to nature, to cultures, to really experience the place. And I love the idea of a sacred place, but I didn't really think I have one of my own, except I do. My sacred place lives with me. I am now safe inside myself. I belong with me. I am my sacred place. And this will always be true. And from that place, I'm free to explore any other place I choose. And so I do. The whole world is my playground. Imagine that. And in that playground, I can go anywhere I choose. And I choose the field, that field beyond right and wrong. And I'm standing in that field, fully, unapologetically me. And I am free. And I hope you join me. Thank you for listening.